Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Thursday, June 2nd, 2022. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, folks. Do you know that today is National Leave the Office Early Day? She would never do that. In fact, last week, she put in one day in which she was up for 21 hours straight. That's because she is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila? Did you get some beauty sleep last night?
No, no, not at all. And I like that you say it was just one day last week where I worked a 21-hour day, but it was like 4 or 5. Yeah, because I was trying to keep track of the team in Davos. So there's an 8-hour time difference between me and them. So I was getting up and meeting with them at 2 a.m. And then what happens when you get up at 2 a.m? I'm like, well, I'll just look at this email and return that email. And then pretty soon it's like 6 a.m. and it's time to start getting the kids up for school because the kids get on the bus at 7:15. And it was just, anyways, that's enough about me and my work.
It's not, but Sheila, you and the big boss man, Ezra, you're the hardest working people at the company. I mean, everybody works really hard here, but could you imagine you were employed, this is some dystopian future alternative Earth scenario here, a sci-fi movie in which you are working at the CBC and you had to work a 21-hour shift. I mean, that would be a Human Rights Commission complaint. Forget about HR.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. It's funny that you say, did you get any beauty sleep? Because I literally didn't last night. I was in Calgary for the premiere of the Trucker documentary, and the movie wraps up at 10. And then by the time we say goodbye to all of our friends and pack up the merch table and load up my Jeep, and then I have a 4-hour drive home. So it's pretty close to 3 a.m. by the time I get home. And then my day starts at 6 a.m. So anyways, I'm happy to be just the energy vampire, like those guys at the World Economic Forum. And you can just shine your David Menzies energy right at me and I'll just drink it in like those World Economic Forum weirdos.
And if that doesn't work, there's always Red Bull. I know the big boss man likes those beverages. But Sheila,
I was thinking about those foie gras ducks, how they stick that funnel down their throat and just feed food into them to like fill their livers full of fat. Someone should do that with coffee for me today because that's what's going to help me get through the day.
And Sheila, you know what? We should briefly touch upon that wonderful event last night in Alberta. But before we do, why don't you just go through the housekeeping rules and then we'll get right to that. And then we'll get right to Trudeau pronouncing some pithy prose, which is just staggering when you see it in the printed form. It probably sounds just as bad in the audio. But in any event, why don't we talk about what we can and cannot say in this day and age of the censorious thugs of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and everybody at home, please bear with me today. We're not sending you our best. I'm running on fumes. Anyways, this is the Rebel News Daily live stream. Used to just be hosted on Fridays by Ezra, but you know what? Pandemic, more news than ever. Now, we used to also just broadcast on YouTube, but YouTube is a censorship platform, and they want to control what you can see and what you can hear and what you can think. So we are still on YouTube, but there are things that we can't talk about. We can't question the advice of a public health officer. We can't question election integrity, any of those things. So we stream there because there are 1.6 million sets of eyeballs. We don't want to abandon you, even the hate watchers. But if you want to get the full story, the full uncensored story, we're currently live streaming on Getter, which is great. But if you want to interact with us and support the work that we do here at Rebel News, there are 3 other platforms where we're also broadcasting. Those are Super U, Rumble, and Odyssey. On Super U, if you leave a paid chat called a shout, we'll read it on air, and it's a way to support us but also interact with us. A Rumble, their paid chat is called a Rumble Rant, and Odyssey, their paid chat is called a Hyper Chat. And those are ways where you can pitch in to help us because we're not the CBC. We won't take any money from Justin Trudeau, but we won't also take any money from any level of government. It keeps us independent and honest. And this is a great way for you to have your say because unlike the mainstream media, we actually do want to hear from you. Exactly. They close their comment section. So
And Sheila, I heard you knocked it out of the park last night in, it was Calgary, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And tell our viewers a little bit about the screening of that wonderful documentary.
Sure. So it was actually the second sold out screening. So we did a screening last week of Kian Simone's documentary Trucker Rebellion, the story of the Coutts blockade. And he made that documentary based on his 9 days there, but also the 14 days that Sid Fizard was there, but Mocha Bezirgan was there, and Adam Soos was there. So there was just so much more to the story than could be told in, a daily video report. That you missed the human backstory. There were things that we didn't want to share at the time, including negotiations with the police and talks with the townspeople. And so Kian put it all together in a documentary. It is available for all of our Rebel News Plus subscribers. So that's sitting behind our paywall there. It's another great reason to become a Rebel News Plus subscriber. Besides my weekly show, David Weekly Show, Andrew Chapados's weekly show, Kat and Nat's weekly show, and Ezra Levant's daily show, you also get exclusive content like that. So that was the second of two sold out screenings last night in Calgary. We're working on other screenings, particularly in the Edmonton area. We're also sort of reaching out to some other venues, one potentially in BC. If you are a theater owner, an independent theater owner who believes in free speech, reach out to us. Reach out to me directly, Sheila@rebelnews.com. We'd love to get in touch with you. We have such a high demand for people who want to see the documentary, but we don't have venues available to show it to you. But it was a full house. Everybody loved it. We had some interesting people in the crowd. We actually had a UCP MLA in the crowd who applauded the truck. He applauded the truckers. He said the truckers were able to do in 2 weeks what the lockdown resistors in the UCP caucus were unable to do in 2 years.
Wow, what a quote, Sheila.
And it really was true. We knew that there were UCP MLAs who were lockdown resistors. They didn't want to see the churches locked up. They didn't want to see the businesses closed. But, there's only so much you can do working collaboratively within caucus. And we also knew what Jason Kenney did to outspoken MLAs, just tossed them out. He was there and he said, thank you, truckers. And he was a UCP MLA who had actually been to the blockade 3 times to see for himself what was really going on there. He didn't want to hear it just from the premier's mouth. He didn't want to hear it from the mainstream media. He drove down there himself. So Adam has an interview with him. I don't want to give too much of that away. So stay tuned for that. But it was just a great crowd. We had some truckers, again, who had been at Coutts, who were in the crowd. Some of the ladies who had taken their horses to the blockade, they were in the crowd. People from Milk River were there. And it was just great. It was just great to be able to show people what we knew about Coutts that maybe the world didn't really know, because, there's still some people who, that, as I often joke, the statistical rounding error of people who watch the CBC's news coverage. There's still some people out there who get their news that way, and I think some of them had their eyes opened last night.
Those are the ones still walking around outdoors right now, and they're in the prime of their health and their youth, and they're still wearing face masks, right?
Some of those people, though, I think that maybe they don't know how to use their remote control. When my mother-in-law gets a new phone, God love her, but she needs a little help setting it up. If you are a grandchild and you are concerned that your grandparents are still watching CBC, maybe they don't know how to use their remote. Take 10 minutes, be a good grandchild, teach them how to use their remote, because that might be the only holdup. Help them.
Oh, well, there's some new innovative tech feature, I think, for do they still make the clapper? Clap on, clap off. Maybe if they can do
David,
that.
What
too.
year is this?
Those of a certain age will know what I'm talking about. Maybe if we can
your phone controls your lights now. And Alexa controls your lights. Google Home does that. You don't need to go applauding yourself all the way through your house.
Well, anyway, Sheila, we shall carry on. Why don't we, it is now Gay Pride. It used to be a day, then a week. Now it's a month. I think the whole month
Now
of
we
June.
have a whole month to celebrate one of the deadly sins.
Yeah,
of
and
pride.
we don't. That's right. I never thought of that. And I think it's called something else than Gay Pride. I think, but I honestly, folks, I'm not trying to be insulting. I just can't remember all the numbers and initials that form that alphabet soup thing. So I'll just go old school and call it Gay Pride Month. And naturally, Justin Trudeau couldn't resist to weigh in on this. Do we have some video queued up, super producer Olivia, to see Justin in all his glory weighing in on Gay Pride?
Because it's important that we be here to celebrate beyond partisanship. Because Pride season is a moment for all of us to recognize the value of making our country more open and inclusive. We all celebrate together Canada's vibrant LGBTQ2 communities, where we can build a world where everyone is free to be their true, authentic self, free to love whom they love, and be proud of who they are. So thank you all for being here.
I cannot express to you how little I care about any of this. You know, I just don't know. And I think most normal people from the gay and lesbian community are just like, I just want to pay my taxes, walk my dog, and maybe save enough money to own a house. I'm not sure I need a season. You know what I mean?
But I can't help but notice a couple of things from that video, Sheila. Maybe we can run the image again. But you notice that there is a new pride flag, because evidently the old pride flag, which was a rainbow, I believe it was 7 colors, is not inclusive enough. So you could be accused, I don't know, of transphobia or biophobia or something like that.
Right.
If you notice, there's now these like 3 triangles. It looks like baby blue, brown, and black. I don't know which color represents who anymore, but that's the new pride flag, evidently. And I'll tell you something.
Walmart's going to be in trouble, because I was in there yesterday and it looks like a unicorn barfed in there everywhere. It's just rainbows on everything. Rainbow koozies, rainbow cowboy hats, because it was Calgary. But they're getting it wrong, because they're obviously transphobic or some sort of phobic, because they don't have the new updated flag.
Oh, and Sheila, I subscribe to the School of Design and the School of Engineering that less is more. And, regardless of how you feel about Pride Month, I mean, the original Pride flag,
it's Pride season now.
Season, yeah. Sometimes those flags never come down.
It went from a parade to a week, then to a month. Now it's called Pride season, which in the before times used to be called summer. But now it's Pride season, wherein once again we celebrate one of the 7 deadly sins. So I think that's going to work out great for us, don't you think?
Well, there you go. And I mean, a lot of the gay people I know, Sheila, they just want to be left alone. They're living their lives in suburbia. They're not about any kind of radicalization or what have you. And yet you see our politicians, and to the best of my knowledge, Justin Trudeau isn't a member of, what did he call it, the LGBTQ community. I think the Prime Minister got it wrong. I'm pretty sure right now you have to add on 2S in front of LGBTQ. Yeah. And why is it, by the way, the 2S now get front billing? And I think is that for two-spirited? I mean,
two-spirited, yeah.
Yeah, this is what got...
so that's checking a few identity boxes. So it's extra.
If we can call this up later in the show, this is what got Stephen LeDrew in trouble when he went on Tucker.
I was talking to that guy at the TDF Student Journalism Conference, and I never thought in my life that I would ever cross paths with a guy like him. He is just a real interesting guy to look at and talk to. And, just severely normal. And because he didn't do the whole recitation of the chant, off he went. He just wasn't liberal enough for the Liberals.
Yeah. His fatal flaw, and the moment he said it, there were already people watching in real time on Tucker going, well, it was a nice career while it lasted, when Tucker innocently asked him, what does two-spirit mean? And he said, well, these are people, I'm paraphrasing, but I think I got the quote. They're obviously confused. They don't know if they're frick or frack, fish or fowl. Bye-bye, LeDrew. You called these angels confused? Oh, no. You're confused. You didn't get the memo. But the other thing, too.
Au revoir.
Yeah. But Trudeau's quote, and here it is, quote, we can build a world where everyone is free to be their true, free, authentic self, free to love whom they love, and to be proud of who they are, end quote. Sheila, I'm sorry, but everyone? I don't think everyone includes those Canadians that were part of the Freedom Convoy that were demonized, vilified, criminally charged, and as we discovered very recently, wiretapped. Yeah. So not everyone is free in Canada. In fact, I would say if you're part of the Justin Trudeau liberal cabal, freedom is the new F word. So it's kind of funny how he brings that word out of storage for Gay Pride Month. But when it comes to political thoughts that are against the Justin Trudeau narrative, no. We're not that much into freedom. We're going to prosecute you for thought crimes. Just incredible.
This is one of those words where liberals and conservatives have vastly different definitions. For example, diversity. For me, it means like just people are different and you're not going to make them conform ideologically or, through their thoughts and their speech. But for the Liberals, it's all about outward appearances that have to be different. I care about diversity of viewpoints, and they care about diversity of appearances, and appearances only. That's it. And then with freedom. Yeah. For me, that means being left alone by the government and by everybody to think and feel and say what I want. For the Liberals, it means freedom to tell you that only these viewpoints are the acceptable ones to hold.
Right.
And only these opinions are the acceptable ones. They are free to tell you to believe those things, and you are free to either believe those things or be canceled.
Indeed,
and
Sheila,
wiretapped.
we are free to support Bill C-11 going into law so that the Liberals have the freedom to censor the internet. Wonderful.
Yes, and so that people are free to not see uncomfortable things.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I believe to make our point about the hypocrisy of Trudeau and the freedom word, the new F word, as I like to call it for the Liberals, we have a second little video clip of Trudeau yammering on about this. Let's roll that right now.
What we are highlighting today, what we are celebrating today, is that Canada truly is one of those rare countries in the world where differences are not a source of weakness, but can be a source of strength. Where we learn from each other, where someone being different from you in background, in story, in perspective, or in sexual orientation is actually an opportunity for each of us to grow, but more importantly, an opportunity for our country to be better and richer. And it's not always easy to have people with all sorts of different stories and backgrounds and perspectives come together. But I'll tell you, in a place like this, where we can make it work, where we lean on each other to learn from each other, where we stand in respect of everyone, where we stand for everyone's rights and freedoms to be who they are, then not only do we set the right path for our community, for our family, for our friends, but we also set it not just for next generations in Canada, but for next generations all around the world.
Oh, okay. So to be who you are, except if you're a conservative. Even worse, a gay conservative,
Oh, yeah.
This guy, just the gall of this guy. Do you think we're hard of remembering? Is he trying to gaslight all of us? to say that it's okay to be different in perspectives, except if you're a conservative who opposes lockdowns, you bastard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's always like, we believe in freedom, except for those people over there. They're fringe radicals. They're the fringe minority. They're racist. They're sexist. They're misogynist. And all they want to do is go back to living their lives. Just the gall of this guy.
You know what? That's a great word, gall. And I mean, what he says and how this government acts, Sheila, they are, talk about diversity. They are two diverse things. When Trudeau says, quote, "We stand for everyone's rights and freedoms to be who they are," end quote. No, he doesn't. Again, going back to the Freedom Convoy, he wouldn't even meet with those people that were there. He was too busy demonizing and vilifying and lying about them. I mean, this is such a grotesque lie. I'm sure would make sneaky Patrick Brown blush.
You know, and when he talks about how Canada's the leader of, you know, supporting rights for sexual minorities. Oh, yeah? I'll take you seriously when I see that pride flag, the new one, by the way, with all the triangles on it. I'm going to need to see that flying over the embassy in Riyadh.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you're real serious, but you're not, this is just virtue signaling nonsense. This is a path of least resistance. Just like when you see all those companies they've changed on Twitter, they've changed the North American bio picture on their Twitter accounts to like BMW with the pride flag in the background, as though like, I don't want a car company that cares about my sexual preferences, by the way. I don't know how those two things are compatible. But you see all these multinational corporations, and in North America and in Western Europe, everything's changed to the pride flag. But if you go to like the Middle East version, it's like, nope. Yeah, this is it. Cisco Middle East. It's BMW Middle East, perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Mercedes-Benz Middle East, perfectly normal. Lenovo. This is just them taking the path of least resistance. They actually don't care about this stuff, because I would suggest that sexual minorities in the Western world, they got it pretty good. They literally have taken over summer. Summer's theirs now.
Yeah.
It's theirs. So, you know, this is just virtue signaling. If you actually care about sexual minorities and freedom to live your life without fear, then I want to see BMW and Mercedes-Benz change their little Twitter bio to the Pride Parade flag one for the Middle East.
Oh,
because
but Sheila,
then you'd be taking a real stand. But they're not.
No, I mean, listen, if you're a German luxury automaker, the bottom line is the bottom line. And doing the whole rainbow flag treatment to your logo in the Middle East, where they're not really down with that gay rights revolution. In fact, gays are executed for their sexual orientation. And another point I want to make on this, the hypocrisy that you see on this side of the ocean too, with those in the gay community. And I speak of the Toronto Gay Pride Parade. I don't think they're around anymore, but for years we had a group march called Queers Against Israeli Apartheid. The one nation in the Middle East that has two gay pride parades. Two.
We were there. I think we were there during Pride in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, we saw a little
I think we were there just like the day after. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, Sheila? I'm afraid you go to the other nations in the Middle East, and if you're a same-sex couple kissing in public, you are literally taking your life in your hands. So what are they talking about? And that's the thing. This is outright anti-Semitism. Because if your slogan, if the name of your organization is Queers Against Israeli Apartheid, and there is no apartheid in Israel, and that's a lie. Apartheid.
Well, I would say there is, but it's the places the Jews can't go. Not the other way around.
No, good point.
Yeah.
So if the basis of your slogan, the name of your organization is a complete lie, then what is the real purpose? It's good old classic Jew hatred. It is anti-Semitism, and they marched in the gay parade in Toronto for years. And I think it's absolutely shocking, because if any of those people or the spectators that were cheering them on went to some Middle Eastern countries and, like I said, displayed same-sex love, you take your life in your hands, literally. So I'm really tired of all this virtue signaling, to tell you the truth, Sheila.
Yeah, I was thinking about just the automakers that are changing their logos or their biopics for all of this. And I thought, who is actually making up the decision to buy a car based on whether or not they have the pride flag logo? Like, if I look and I'm like, I was considering, getting a new Bronco, but I see that, darn right, if the cost of vehicles weren't so outrageous right now, that's on the checklist. But, there are people, do they really think that there are people out there thinking, I would get a new Bronco, but they don't have the Pride Parade thing on their logo, so I'm just gonna, I guess, opt instead for this used Lada. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, nobody's making up their mind like that. Nobody. I refuse to believe that there's anybody who considers that before they buy a vehicle. I just don't think that, or like Lenovo or Cisco. Like, I was going to buy a computer and I was going to get the Asus that I really wanted, but you know what? They don't have the pride flag, so I'm going to go with the Lenovo. But give me a break. Nobody thinks that way.
No, but Sheila, look at the company's rationale. As I said before, the bottom line is the bottom line. And when you look at the gay community, many couples do not have children. That means, as you know, you have an excess of disposable income. So those are legit customers. But having said that, I would like to see BMW and Mercedes explain to me your point, which is, if we're all about gay rights, then why aren't you, doing that treatment, the rainbow treatment to your logos in Middle East countries? I want to see what their official response is, because we all know what the real response is. We should pursue that and just get them on the record to say, well, we're not that into gay rights.
Right. Yeah.
And by the way, Sheila, if you are considering a Bronco, Car and Driver magazine did a benchmark test of the Bronco and the Wrangler, the off-road versions.
Yep.
The Bronco killed the Jeep Wrangler. And all you Jeep Wrangler people that are so beholden to that brand, don't send your hate to me. That was a Car and Driver score out of 200, and the Bronco just cleaned up. So there you go. Good choice, Sheila Gunn Reid.
And I have two Jeeps. So I mean, for me to transfer back to a Bronco, I've done some serious research. Anyway, is it too early to advocate for a humility season next year to cure us all of this pride?
How would we celebrate that, though?
By minding our own business, quit being boastful, checking your ego at the door. Okay, let's move on to the next thing that we have on the list here, because we spent 29 minutes on Justin Trudeau being a hypocrite, which, I mean, I guess we do. We do an hour of that every day sometimes.
Oh, but one last epilogue, Sheila. It has to be said, because I wasn't there for the first weekend of the trucker convoy, which was late January. And I think I told you the story. I'm driving around in Toronto. I'm listening to 680 News, and they're reporting that the Patriots, as part of the trucker rally, had vandalized the Terry Fox statue. And I sunk in my seat and went, oh, no, what idiot would have done that? And then I learned from the photo evidence, vandalization was draping Terry Fox in a Canadian flag. And I mention this because that statue is directly
is what they called it.
Pardon me?
They called it defacing. And
yes, defacing.
Defacing, and I forget the other one.
What do you want to bet that as Justin Trudeau was saying that speech, right across the street, that's where the Terry Fox statue is, that a gay pride flag was draped around?
100%.
Yeah. And where's the outrage? Where's, the defacing, the vandalism? I mean, give me a break. Yeah. What a double standard.
I think they said desecration also, as though this was like a holy site. And I'm like, didn't 50 plus churches just burn? Like, yeah. But you guys are worried about desecrating a statue?
Yeah.
Give me a break, by the way.
I know. Just incredible. Anyway, so yeah, now we've spent a full half hour on Justin Trudeau.
Perfect.
Hypocrisy.
Now, before we move on, because I think we need a good dose of traditionalism before we move on to the next thing, can we bring up the Rebel News store, please?
Ah.
Because we have some new merch in there. for the actual father in your life, or the father figure in your life. Oh, by the way, this is beautiful. For Justin Trudeau's father, this is a good Father's Day present for, your funny, cheeky dad who likes a good dad joke. Get him the Justin Castro shirt. But we have a new Father's Day selection in the store. Rebel Dad, Rebel Grandpa. So get them it for Father's Day, but they can wear this all the time. There's a whole lineup of it, hoodies, t-shirts. And the beauty of the Father's Day promotion right now is that it's buy one, get one 25% off anything in the store. So wow. Get one for your dad, get one for your grandpa, get one for your son. And it's free shipping globally. But do keep in mind that we're dealing with Canada Post here, and that's a government agency. So order early is what I'm saying to you.
Sheila, I have a hypothetical question for you. Say Justin Trudeau is in the back of his armored Chevy Suburban V8 carbon-spewing SUV, and he's going down Wellington Street, well, the part that they haven't closed off to the ham and eggers, and he sees somebody wearing that Justin Castro shirt. What do you think is going through his mind?
He's wondering how to seize their bank account. That's what he's doing.
Wiretap that guy.
Wiretap that funny fellow. The promo code, by the way, in the Rebel News store, before we get too far away from it, is DAD25. So DAD25 will give you 25% off the second item in the store, and it's free global shipping. But again, please keep in mind, Canada Post, right? So order now.
And Sheila, I'm going to say what I said before to you. I'm the umpire behind home plate. I call him as I see him. I think the mail, at least in the GTA, is getting around faster than ever, because basically the bulk of what posties are delivering is junk mail, or as they call it, ad mail.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, very few people are beholden to writing letters and getting an envelope and a stamp. I mean, it's mostly electronic. So the mail is moving faster because there's that much less of it.
I've completely given up on Canada Post altogether. I just... the ability to track my parcels in real time has really just confirmed every bias I had about the postal system. And I know there are good people working inside a bad system. And this is not a criticism of you. It's a criticism of everything the government runs or touches being terrible.
But Sheila, let's be honest. I mean, you live a stone's throw away from the Arctic Circle the last I checked. So, you got to give them some slack that way.
Oh, for sure. I do. But sometimes it shouldn't take 2 weeks for things to come 18 kilometers.
Anyway, so thank you for that. And, do you want to turn to our video from yesterday, if we have it? Folks, I was given an invitation, an audio invitation from the Premier himself, Doug Ford, to come to their rally yesterday at the Toronto Congress Centre. And that was very important. And I brought a copy of the tape, and I made a printed transcript because, you see, last time I was at the Toronto Congress Centre, I was deemed media non grata by Ivana Yelich. I don't have that special groovy relationship that she has with Brian Lilly, which is another way of saying they like to engage in horizontal jogging. Talk about a conflict of interest. But anyway, I had the evidence that I was actually invited this time. And without further ado, why don't we run the video and see what my reception was like? With your help, our PC party is building Ontario with keeping costs down for families like yours. Head to OntarioPC.ca. Officer, this sure sounds like an invitation.
How many times do you plan on trying this? It's not going to work. You've tried before. It doesn't work.
No, I didn't have an invitation before, Zach.
But we know you're not getting in. So.
And what is the reason for that?
You're not allowed in the event. It's a private event. You're not invited, so we're asking you to leave.
What is the reason for it? Especially
the reason. It's a private event, and you're
is Brian Lilly allowed in? Because Brian Lilly is doing horizontal jogging with Premier Ford spokeswoman Ivana Yelich, right?
Great jokes.
So no, it's not a joke, Zach. It's the truth.
Terrible, so we can move out to the road.
Do I have to engage in sexual congress with somebody on Ford's communications team to get in?
I'm not going to make any more comments, so we're going to ask you to leave out to the sidewalk, please.
But
Thank you.
so you're
please out to the sidewalk.
officer. Do you recognize this as an invitation?
It's not an invitation.
We're not having this discussion. If we could just please ask you to remove yourself from the property.
Okay, then I'll go. But it says I'm inviting you, and you're saying it's not an invitation.
I would greatly appreciate you just moving to the sidewalk, please. Thank you.
Okay, but you're saying it's
I
not an
would greatly
invitation. It says
appreciate
I'm
moving to the
inviting you.
sidewalk.
It's
Sir,
not
I
an
would greatly
invitation.
appreciate it. It's not an invitation. Can you please?
It says in the Premier's own voice, I'm inviting you.
That, so
Okay, please, Zach. Do you want to hear the recording?
Can you
I've
please?
heard
Can you
the
please
recording.
make your way to the sidewalk?
Okay, then. Yeah, so you're not invited, but I was invited. That's the point, Sheila. Well, and I want to, is it too much to ask, and apparently it is, what is the ostensible policy reason why I'm not allowed to show myself in that building? Because for a good 15 years, Sheila, I've been going to Ford Nation events, and I was always welcomed with open arms. Now it's the reverse. The CBC and the Toronto Star, the red carpet comes out for them. Is it because...
The ones that attacked Doug Ford's brother and his family relentlessly.
Yeah.
Relentlessly. You know what? Speaking of 7 deadly sins, I would be guilty of wrath if those people came near me after the attacks that they had on my family, but Doug Ford seems perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, and they're lying. They're saying you weren't invited. I brought the audio, and I brought a printed transcript. I also brought a cherry cheesecake, Sheila, that I was not able to deliver to the Premier.
You're trying to lure him?
The ants are now eating that outside the lawns of the Toronto Congress Centre. But, I've asked Ezra about this because I'm absolutely baffled. And he believes, and maybe this is the case, and I can't believe Doug Ford would be so thin-skinned, but with us covering the protests by the members of Yahoo Nation, these were former voters. These were former Ford Nation people that began over 2 years ago on the lawns of Queen's Park, Sheila. Us covering that, us playing those videos of those people expressing their displeasure, he's taking it out on me and on Rebel News. I mean, Doug, if you're listening, we're not your PR agency. We're a news agency. And this is a classic case of shoot the messenger. And yet, like I said, Sheila, not only are the mainstream media, the Viper, Doug and Rob used to refer to the Toronto Star as a, quote, bunch of maggots, end quote. And now they get a $500 million gambling license for online gambling and, of course, are welcomed into every press conference. Sheila, do you think Ezra's right, or do you have some other theory as to why we're not banned? And my God, if I'm wrong, please tell me. I'm talking to the Ford people here. Zach, if that's your real name, please tell me what the real reason is for us being deemed persona non grata.
Yeah, I think Ezra's right. And I'm not just saying that because he's my boss. I do think it is petty, because I don't know why conservative politicians often think that they are entitled to favorable coverage from conservative outlets. We are not your press secretaries. We are not beholden to you. We are beholden to conservative Canadians. That's who we answer to. And we hold politicians to account on behalf of them. All politicians on the left and the right. And actually, I take extra care in being harder on conservative politicians because, quite frankly, I expect the Liberals to lie to me. But when conservative politicians are going around asking for conservative votes and promising them to do conservative things, when you don't, you're going to hear it from me. And that's exactly what we did to Doug Ford. We sided with the people.
Yeah.
And we held the politicians to account on behalf of the people, which is our job as journalists. And so Doug Ford is mad that we did our job as journalists. And as hard as we've been on Jason Kenney here in Alberta, and Lord knows we have been, I don't know how many billboards I've taken out against Jason Kenney, the UCP still lets us attend press conferences and come to their events and their UCP MLAs, by and large, will talk to us. The Premier will take questions from us. And like I said, we've been hard. We hired billboard trucks to chase them around. We put up billboards along the side of Alberta's busiest highway, ran petitions against them. We're critics of how they treated pastors. But even them, they will take questions from us. We can go to their events. Doug Ford is, I think, one of the pettiest men in the entire country. Absolutely thin-skinned.
Sheila, well said, and I want to pick up on a couple of things you mentioned. The fact that we sided with the people, or at least gave the people a voice, and how
a fair shake.
Pardon me?
A fair shake. We gave the people a fair shake. Politicians, powerful politicians, we're calling them names, calling them radicals, extremists, hateful. Why? Because they just wanted to go back to living their lives like the before times, which only makes perfect sense.
And Sheila, how perversely ironic, isn't it, that in 2018, the two slogans for the Doug Ford campaign were "For the People" and "Ontario Open for Business." Well, that's assuming you have a paid lobbyist that will keep your business open. The rest of you are going to be locked down. And if need be, we'll send all the king's horses and all the king's men to shut down your barbecue restaurant. And the other thing is this, and I've already lost my thought.
Of course.
But
I was just going to say.
What we should have done, maybe if we had followed the mainstream media coverage of Yahoo Nation, we wouldn't be banned. Because the mainstream media coverage, Sheila, came down to this. I'm going to steal one of your lines. They were like wildlife photographers from several hundred meters away, filming with a telephoto lens. Kind of like how a wildlife photographer would film a wolverine. You don't want to get too close. You might get slashed to bits. And but what did we do? We would go into the crowd. We would embed ourselves with the crowd. We would get comments from these people. The mainstream media would take long shots. They would run like a 15-second clip. And the narrative was essentially this. Look at all these COVIDiots. That's what they were portraying. That's what Doug Ford probably wanted. The fact that we went in and talked to these good people who were losing their jobs, losing their businesses, losing their livelihood. He didn't like that, and he takes it out on us for just giving the other side a chance to tell their story.
Well, yeah, and look who's getting preferential treatment. The Toronto Star. Like, we don't want preferential treatment. We don't want any treatment at all. Just leave us alone. Let us do our jobs. We're professionals. But the Toronto Star. So the newspaper of record, the socialist newspaper of record, by the way, that's in their, sort of in their belief statement. They're getting this contract for gaming. And they openly mused on their front page whether or not, the vaccinated should be basically allowed to live.
Yeah.
They wondered if the unvaccinated have a place in society. What should we do with these horrible, horrible people? That's who's getting preferential treatment. The sort of outlets that in Rob Ford's worst days were peeping over the bushes and harassing him on the driveway as he was trying to take his kids to school. That's who's getting access to Doug Ford these days. And not just access, preferential, sometimes exclusive access to him. I don't know. Some people don't have a good relationship with their family, so, like maybe you don't get outraged about these sorts of things. But think about how, if your closest friends were treated that way, would you hold a grudge against those people? Or at the very least, not treat them better than everybody else, which is what Doug Ford is doing at this point.
Sheila, well said, and I think it all boils down to this. Contrary to popular belief, and it's been proven these last 4 years, Doug Ford is not Rob Ford. A lot of people, myself included, thought they were interchangeable. Rob Ford would never have done what Doug Ford has done. Doug Ford, I think, is all about an insatiable quest for power, whether it was going to be the mayor of Toronto, the premier of Ontario. He is beholden to his behind-the-scenes puppet masters, the people he calls the team. The team, Sheila, these anonymous puppet masters that are actually making the call, and Doug Ford is abiding by their demands and wishes. Rob Ford was truly a man for the people, and the way the mainstream media crucified this individual, a lot of people, Sheila, say the stress he was under might have brought upon the trouble he had with cancer. I know there's no scientific linkage that definitively says stress can lead to cancer, but there's a lot of theory that it could. I'm pretty much of the camp, Sheila, that Rob Ford went into an early grave because of the way he was absolutely hounded 24/7. And folks, when Sheila says roaming around, in a vacant lot behind his property, yeah, I'm talking about you, Daniel Dale of the Toronto Star.
Yeah, I think he was standing on a stump or something, peeking over the fence like a total weirdo.
100%. And Doug Ford, to remain in power and to remain beholden to his masters behind the scenes, he's forgotten all about that. He's forgotten what he did, what the mainstream media did to his own flesh and blood. Unbelievable. I can't conceive this, Sheila. To me, this is betraying his late great brother.
Well, and Doug Ford was happy to trade on the love and affection that people had for Rob to get himself elected.
Yep.
I think a lot of people were just voting because they loved Rob.
Yep.
And Rob on his worst day is, I think, better than Doug on his best. Rob in the throes of active addiction, on crack and booze, pills, whatever. I'd take him over Doug Ford any day because he was honest. Whatever his troubles were, he always stuck up for the little guy. And you saw that in his volunteer work and his rejection of handouts.
And wasn't that another example of the hypocrisy of mainstream media, Sheila? Yes, Rob Ford did have substance abuse issues, but we've been told that these people are victims, that we should reach out with compassion. We have safe
not just reach out,
sites.
literally give them the drugs.
Yes.
But when it's a conservative who's having these same problems, they're the worst, let's crush them, let's ruin their lives. But if it's somebody that you pity, you enable them right into the grave.
And we just saw this week in BC, decriminalization of currently illegal drugs. So there's all this compassion for people who aren't, advertising themselves, I guess, as conservatives. But once you're a conservative with substance abuse, you go from victim to villain, and he or she must be cast out. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a great week to be a gangster in Canada, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
With Justin Trudeau making you the sole market for handguns in the country and going after the lawful owners, leaving the entire black market wide open for you, and also allowing the gangs that traffic in fentanyl, heroin, all those things, just making sure that your customers never have a point of contact with police where they might actually end up diverted into treatment so that they become productive members of society. Good for Justin Trudeau protecting your market share. It's a great time to be a gangster.
Incredible, Sheila. And by the way, as a segue, I'd like to get out of Canada, get what's going on out of my mind. But of course I can't. I remain landlocked here, thanks to the vax policy, at least until June 30th, probably longer. And we do have a video here, I understand. It's a representative from Canada's tourism industry talking about those awful COVID-related delays for no reason at all. Why don't we run that?
This is really about facilitating the smooth travel process. So this is backing up arrivals at our border. You're talking about, if you just take the example of Pearson, 30,000 people coming through per day through our international arrivals into our facility. And it would normally take a customs agent 30 seconds to process that passenger when they're at their desk. It's, it should take, an international standard would be about 20 minutes to get through the line, and we're seeing much longer lines. We're seeing people backed up, waiting on planes anywhere from 30 up to 75 minutes at peak times. So this is just unacceptable in terms of entry into Canada. And the reason is because each person has to be vetted in terms of health questions that are asked multiple times, both in the ArriveCan app, also at the machine by the customs agent at the desk. And then we need to decide, or the government agency needs to decide, who is going to be randomly selected for testing. 4,000 people a day are randomly selected for testing, but we need to vet all 30,000 of those passengers into Pearson, 50,000 into our country. It's slowing down the process in terms of smooth arrivals into our country. Our airports were not built to facilitate public health requirements. They were built for the smooth, transiting of passengers, welcoming them into our country. So this is really what's backing up the system at our international arrivals. We were able to facilitate smooth travel pre-pandemic. We will be able to again if we didn't have these public health measures in place. Is there a staffing issue across, aviation in general? Absolutely. We're all facing that shortage and working hard with our federal government agencies, our airline partners, our airports. We're all working hard to get people staffed up and back to work as quickly as possible. So I think we're making efforts there. But even if we solved the staffing issue, we still have these public health requirements in place that are really limiting the smooth travel process at our international border. And that's what we're calling today to change.
You know what, Sheila, now that I think of it, maybe it's a good thing I'm landlocked. I mean, spending hours and hours in a lineup for all this useless COVID virtue signaling, the government pretending they're keeping Canadians safe. But I want to, here's the thing. The lady spoke of staffing issues, and I'm looking at Pearson where the problem is the absolute worst. I understand they only have 90% of the staff at the airport that they did in 2019, pre-COVID. But the capacity at the airport, Sheila, is just 70% of 2019 volume. So in other words, when you look at a per capita basis, they're actually overstaffed compared to 2019. So I'm just wondering, is there some purposeful strategy of making these lines go slower? I mean, because when you look at the numbers, it doesn't make sense to me.
Except for the fact that there's all these extra duties now involved in the mix of it, where not only is your airport and your airport security and your airport staff, are they doing their job, but now they have to act as lab techs for Justin Trudeau. We've turned the parts of the airport into these mobile lab facilities where this slows everything down. They're taking temperature checks and pulling people for random COVID tests. That takes extra people, extra time. And, I'm pretty sure the airport is an airport and a hospital is a hospital. And until such time as they start parking planes at the hospital, there's going to be extra time and duties and man hours that they just don't have the staff to make up happening at airports.
And Sheila, there is absolutely no evidence, I understand, that airplanes are a hotspot for COVID outbreaks.
They've never even bothered to collect it. They've never even bothered to track it. So everything you see happening at the airport, everything you see happening on an airplane, all the testing, all the quarantine, if you exhibit signs of COVID, any of that, the masking, anything, they have never collected a stitch of data about whether or not COVID is transmissible on an airplane. They haven't even bothered.
The justification is we have a hunch. We think there's a possibility. Gee, Sheila, whatever happened to follow the science?
It's just like the public safety theater of the random gropings that you get at the airport if you fly enough. When they pull you for additional screening and everything that came into place after 9/11, and they created these extra bureaucracies, these safety bureaucracies at the airport to deal with 9/11. And very little of it is actually effective. Same thing with this. It's the new crisis where they're bringing in all these rules to be perceived to be doing something, but not actually doing anything at all. It's the same as the straw ban. banning the plastic straws to save the turtles, and you're like, I'm pretty sure my Fort Saskatchewan McDonald's straw is not ending up the nose of a sea turtle, but thank you for making me drink this paper mache goop in a plastic cup to save, I don't know, sea life.
And of course, it should be noted, Sheila, that whether it's the security measures post 9/11 or the COVID measures post 2019, it doesn't apply to Justin Trudeau. He flies first class in his private jet. He doesn't go through this probing and prodding. He doesn't have to worry about the ArriveCan app, nothing like that. So again, one rule for thee, one rule for me, right?
That's right. You know, I don't know if it's like this again, but I know there was for a time before they even had the vax mandates on the planes, you could not get crackers on the plane. They didn't give you anything. They were just like, they didn't even want to touch you or go near you. And the flight attendants looked like they were headed into brain surgery. They had like booties on and the smocks and masks and then like the shield and gloves. I don't know what flying is. I don't know. I can't imagine it's that bad as it was back then. But I mean, it was just absolute COVID theater in the sky.
Well, Sheila, I'll never forget when Mocha and I, back in the summer of 2020, we had to go on an assignment to Thunder Bay, Ontario. We left Pearson. The plane could not land in Thunder Bay because the airport was fogged in. So we returned to Pearson to take another try at it. And the aviation rules are when you land, whenever you land, you've got to get, refueled, even if you have enough fuel to go back to Thunder Bay. So it took about maybe 45 minutes to an hour to accommodate that before our next approach. And people, while they were waiting, they stood up and, stretching, talking to their neighbor, and a shrill screech from the PA system from a flight attendant ordered us all to remain seated. Remember, the plane's not moving. It's not taxing, nothing. It's getting refueled. And I asked the stewardess when I got off the plane, why did you yell at the people like that? And, why can't you stand as opposed to sitting? And she said, oh, it's because of COVID. So
right.
I guess
it gets you up here. That's one thing I learned about restaurants is if you're seating, it's fine. But if you stand up, oh, God.
True story, folks.
COVID comes along and puts a knife to your throat and steals your wallet.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
But follow the science, Sheila Gunn Reid. Follow that science. But what we should follow right now is some of our super chats. I'm sure a few have come in.
By the way, if they leave me on an airplane after it lands for 70 minutes, I'm going to be on a no-fly list real fast. When the plane is moving, I'm fine. But when it's parked and then people are standing over me, and I get claustrophobic real fast. That when everybody lands and then everybody stands up and rummages around and gets their luggage, I can just feel my face getting hot and I feel like I'm going to have a road rage incident, but I'm on a plane. Like, it's not good.
You are a unique specimen, Sheila Gunn Reid. I mean, you can strangle a rabid Wolverine with your bare hands, the huntress that you are, and yet going on windy mountain roads in a bus or being in a confined space.
Confined spaces.
Make you go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I don't get it, but anyways.
I can't even be in a sleeping bag. It's too confined. Like, I need an open side. Let's go. Okay. We've got Becca Henderson gives us $1. It's not just Pride Month now. I've seen people say Pride season. Yeah, it's Pride season now. Summer, right? Summer? Does that mean 3 months? I guess so. Like the whole summer. The flag Trudeau stands beside is so last month. Check out the new flag. And then I sent it to Olivia there. Can you bring that up? It's the new Pride flag from the Brooklyn Nets, which I assume is a basketball. It's in
yes,
the
they are.
thread.
Well,
yeah.
What does the Brooklyn Nets have to do with the... What?
I don't know.
No, I haven't seen that. What is that? That is...
I don't know. It's... If someone asked me to draw a picture of vertigo, this is what I would draw. Like if they said, Sheila, if you had to visually depict car sickness and that feeling you get when you're looking off a tall building and you get kind of dizzy and woozy, this is what I would draw. I don't know why makes me feel gross. Like it feels nauseous to me. It's a lot of lines.
This is the flag version of the not so dearly departed Pontiac Aztec. I mean, it's a grotesque mishmash of lines and angles. I mean, if you came up with
not
this,
cohesive.
no, this is it's like your I don't know, your Etch-a-Sketch broke and all the pixels went all over the place. If you were in a design class and came up with that, you would fail. This is, who are they catering to? What do all these colors and circles and triangles and what does it represent? I mean, like I said, at least the old-fashioned pride flag of 7 rectangular bars, it was simple. And like I said before, when it comes to design, less is more, right? But this is unbelievable.
This is a little busy. It's a little busy. I feel like if Elvis Presley were shooting a TV from the toilet, that's what would be on the screen after the TV was shot. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot. It's just, ideology aside, that's not a very cohesive design, people. It's making me nauseous.
It's like your kaleidoscope.
You don't know where to look.
Yeah. Your kaleidoscope broke, and that was the last fixated image.
Yeah. You don't know where to look. I don't know where to look. What am I looking at? I'm looking at everywhere, which is making me dizzy. Anyway,
Wow.
Fraser McBurney gives us $5. Did you watch the Queen's Platinum Jubilee this morning? I wonder if Canada will celebrate it today. No, it's Pride season. We cannot celebrate the Queen, don't you know?
Poor
The
Queen
Queen's the only
Elizabeth.
good one left. If she goes, I don't know. I'm happy to consider becoming a republic. Because her successor is crazy. So I don't know. May she live forever.
Well, you know what, Sheila, your fantasy is for Alberta to separate and become its own nation. Would you want it as part of the monarchy, or would it be a republic?
So far, I'm considering being a part of I would consider it a commonwealth. The Commonwealth of Elk Island is what I have already come up with. Gives me the ability to appoint people to certain positions, like Governor General, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like I could have the Queen's representative here. I'm not sure if my dog will take the job, but she seems up for it. Anyway.
You would look so good in a crown or a tiara, I think, Sheila Gunn Reid.
No, it would get stuck in my hair. It would take days to get out of there. Okay. We'd have to cut it out. Adam Ottawa gives us $1. The CBC reported today that the GBLT community is rampant with racism. As a gay man, I'm getting sick of this fight that's already been won. CBC says dating apps aren't representative of a community. Isn't that the truth? Try being a conservative on a dating app, by the way. I think Louis Brackpool did a video that walked us through what it's like to try to be a young conservative on a dating app, and it's not good. Meet your potential spouse at church. I think church and church socials. I think that's the best way to go about it, because I don't know. I don't know how young people meet each other anymore.
Or in a hot tub at a fitness facility.
Gross. Where everybody's just sweaty and simmering, and there's just a thin layer of spandex between you and somebody else's genitals. Not that it matters, because the water is circulating past their genitals over to you. Yeah, again, no amount of chlorine. I just don't like it.
But Sheila, on the plus side, it's kind of like window shopping. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
Anyway.
That woman is a saint, by the way. Just an absolute saint. Adam Ottawa gives us $1 and says, the so-called biphobia comes from within the L and G communities. Bi people are often accused of being greedy or not picking a side. Huh.
It's
interesting. I don't spend enough time poking around there to know. Maybe I should.
This reminds me of that Meryl Streep movie, Sheila. It's complicated because I'm clueless as to what's going on. All these different factions. It's like
also, like we're consistently, reliably told that you can be whatever you want on any given day, and you're not supposed to question it. So if you say you're bi, why are the L's and the G's telling you that you're not? I'm pretty sure that they're not allowed to do that, right? Like, if I told them you're not that, I would be canceled forever. I try to mind my own business. Why can't they?
Sheila, all I got to say is this. This sounds like the template for a gay version of Game of Thrones.
Very confusing. As Efron says, I wish them well. I just wish them well. Trini Canadian. Is Efron laughing?
I can't see. Efron loves tinted windows, you see, Sheila. And I think he has tinted the studio windows. He wants to tint his Mazda's windows. So he's got a real, much like you want to see Alberta separate, Efron's number one plight in his life is getting windows tinted. I can't explain it.
Sounds fun. I like privacy. Okay. Trini Canadian gives us $1. This whole Pride Month, week, season, whatever, or however long it is so ridiculous. It's driving me to drink. I don't care if you identify as a llama. I don't know why any of this is my business. You know what I mean? I would like to think that we're past all of this stuff. Everybody just live their lives and leave me alone. But we're just not there. Like, I'm there. I thought that was where we were supposed to get to when all of this started. And I'm like, yep, I'm there. Okay. But no, it's not good enough, I guess.
Is there an official alcoholic drink of gay pride season, Sheila? Well, what do you think that might be?
I don't know. There's even fragrances. For example, I was poking around on Bath and Body Works this morning. I was looking at candles for some reason. I was up really early because I didn't really sleep all that much. And there's like pride fragrances, like body spray and stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Sheila,
smell like coconut and cookies. Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know what the pride scented candle is all about. I'm just there trying to smell like coconut and cookies, and I don't understand. I don't know what the point is.
Sheila, there is a punchline just dangling there for me to hit right out of the ballpark, but I dare not say it. I'm self-censoring myself.
It's good. Okay. Fraser McBurney gives us $5. I think that's the same one. AMT 60 gives us $1. Freedom for unjab doesn't apply in Canada as we're now under communism. I have great antibodies from the virus and yet can't travel by train, plane, anywhere. I can go to a crowded theater, FRPM. You can go to a crowded theater. You can go to a hockey game. You can go to the mall. You can go to a swimming pool and swim in a tepid pool of everybody else's filth. That's all fine, but you cannot go on a plane.
But you know what, Sheila? I do have a little bit of good news to report, and that was what I heard in the news this morning on the radio, that the Toronto Police Service is reinstating all those officers that were suspended without pay for not getting vaxxed. They'll be back on the job later this month, so a little victory there, I should think.
Yeah, are they going to be welcomed back with an apology and back pay? Because they didn't actually do anything wrong. You can be an officer that does something wrong, like beats up somebody, and you get suspended with pay.
That's
waiting
right.
for your your review board hearing. But if you just make a different medical choice than everybody else, you get no pay.
You're so right, Sheila. And when you say suspended with pay, sometimes the process takes years.
Yeah, you're on vacation for 2-3 years.
In fact, you might want to get suspended with pay, do a side hustle, and or go on holiday and not have to worry about any bad guys spitting or knifing or shooting at you. Sounds like a good gig.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Trini Canadian gives us $1 and says, just listening to Justin Trudeau wants to make me barf. Yeah, me too. Georgie gives us $1 and says, my first memory of TV was the OJ Bronco chase. That was your first memory of TV? I feel terribly old. I think I remember watching that in high school. Like, I think we were having a math test or a quiz or something, and the teacher wheels in the TV cart, and they're like, "There's something we should be watching," and I think it was the police chase.
Oh, the slowest police chase in history. And it's kind of incredible. I would have thought, and I think others did too, that the association of the Ford Bronco and O.J. Simpson was enough to keep that brand dead as in forever. But
yeah, but David, think about the replacement. So they replaced the Bronco, or at least the Bronco 2, right, with the Ford Escape.
Well, that's not a direct replacement. I mean,
but really, it came out just right after they stopped making the Bronco 2, and then they make the Ford Escape. So the Bronco was too stigmatized, so they come up with the Escape.
Yeah, and what a terrible association there, because O.J. Simpson was using a Bronco to escape law enforcement.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, who is the marketing guy behind that? The guy who made that crazy Pride Parade flag? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you, I once had a conversation with a senior Ford executive, and you'll never see one name come back from the stable, and that was the Ford Probe. And it's a gender thing, Sheila, because for guys, what a probe means, that means going out into outer space, probing around the universe, a la Star Trek. But for females, as Ford found out, there's a negative connotation. I won't get into it because I don't want to get into trouble. And that's why you will never see the Ford Probe brought back.
I always thought it was about alien abduction. I think they take us equally and then probe us equally. I just think owning a Ford Probe was just an invitation to alien abduction. Kane Edmark gives us $4. Is TD Bank going to forgive my payments for my house through the gay season? I'll ask them and get back to the show, LOL. I don't know what you're getting at there. Pamela for Freedom gives us $10. Your guts rock and make me LOL. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Scott, not two T's? Oh, Scott, not two T's. $7. Rant on, David and Sheila. Your hearts are in the right place. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
And Books and Tea gives us $1. Pierre Poilievre is running for the Conservative leader. As you know, I've been receiving phone calls from him saying only Conservative Party members can vote. Need to be a member to do so. $15 by tomorrow. That's right. Is the leadership cutoff, I think, by tomorrow, I think.
Correct. Yep.
So if you want to have your say, if you want to cast your vote for your favorite, and I don't have one, and if I did, you'd never know anyway. You better buy your membership. It's $15, or I think for 5 years, I think it's $25 maybe. But anyways, if you want to vote, you have to buy your membership. This is not a membership sales drive. I'm just telling you, if you want to have your say, that's the only way.
That is correct. And tomorrow is indeed the deadline, June 3rd. And are those all the chats there, Sheila? Oh,
one from Paul Otto Newman gives us $5 and says, "Go Oilers, go!" It's Thursday, right? We have a playoff game tonight, do we not? I think we do.
I think you do. Yeah, it was terrible what happened to the team with that blown offside call. I think it was so flagrant, and that's really what ended up. But you know what? I guess, is that your team, Sheila, or have you just detached yourself from pro sports?
I'm completely detached from pro sports except for NASCAR and my daughter makes me watch professional rugby and rodeo. Professional rodeo, that I'm good with that. But anything else, I just don't care.
Sheila, did I ever tell you I rode a bull at the Smoky Lake Rodeo in 1985?
So many times I feel like I was the bull. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway.
Yes, anyway.
We should tell everybody about the live stream.
Yes.
Tonight, which I'm not hosting, so I don't know very much about it. So it's the Ontario election, and it's hosted by you and Tamara Ugolini. What time is that starting?
That is correct. And I believe I want to confirm with Olivia, is it 7 or 8 p.m. we take to the air? 7 for at least 2 hours, right? Because I know the polls close at 9. And there is something called the 901 Club in... What time? Sorry, folks, 7:30 we begin our coverage. And I know there's a club in the NDP caucus called the 901 Club, Sheila, which is basically if Andrea Horwath, for the fourth time, fails to deliver a government, she better get her resignation speech ready at 1 minute after 9 p.m. when the polls close. So there is dissension among the ranks, to be sure. But it's going to be fascinating. All kinds of polls out there, Sheila, suggesting that the PC government is going to actually gain seats. And maybe that is due to the split on the left. If you are wanting to support a left-leaning party, you are confused or you're indecisive about, do I go NDP or do I go Liberal? And as a result, that might bode well for the Doug Ford PCs. But we'll see in a matter of hours, won't we?
Especially if you were a Liberal or an NDP voter and you're like, well, Doug Ford kind of gave us everything we wanted. Lockdowns, world's longest lockdown, spending out of control. I don't know. If you were a Liberal voter, Doug Ford has kind of made the Liberals obsolete.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he is outspending previous Liberal governments for sure. I mean, in terms of being a fiscal conservative, that's out the window. You're right, Sheila. I mean, you could, when I say the left-leaning parties, you could throw in the conservatives in that camp right now. And, the way they've been running the campaign, Doug Ford going to events, and it's basically photographs only. No comments to the media, even the mainstream media, which he seems to adore now. He's turned into the political version of No More Comments lady in Ottawa that we interviewed back in April, right? Except he's not wearing a witch's hat. Maybe that'll come later. Do warlocks wear hats? I don't know.
I don't know. Triggly witch.
Anyways.
Okay, we've got a couple of chats still.
Oh,
they're
there we
rolling
go.
in. So I don't want to stop as long as people are paying us to keep talking.
100%.
And, if you are, God love you.
Sometimes it pays to rag the puck.
I don't feel like I delivered very much today. I feel like I'm just running on fumes. Anyways, King7734 gives us a buck and says, David, there's a gay version of Game of Thrones. It's called Game of Thrones. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, you know
David
what?
keeps trying to get me to watch it, but I've never watched it. I'm always watching something spooky and scary or whatever compelling. And David said, I really need to watch Game of Thrones. And I've never watched it. Not even like a second of it.
I think you'd like it. And you know what? I mean, it used to be my reading, Sheila. It was like 90% nonfiction, 10% fiction. It's almost the reverse now. I need to escape from the madness of the world we cover. So Game of Thrones is a great escape. And, and what I like about it is, there's only a small percentage really of the supernatural, the dragons and the giants and all that. But Game of Thrones is really all about politics. It could be set in this day and age with all the conniving and the shenanigans and the backstabbing. I guess it just shows that politics 'twas ever thus.
I don't know. I'm probably just going to start X-Files again from the beginning. And then when that's done, I'll just start Twin Peaks again from the beginning. Okay, we've got one more, I think. That's it. So Books and Tea gives us a buck, and then she links to, or he, sorry, I should not be presuming your gender. Links to Pierre Poilievre's website with his membership there. So if people want to join the party before the cutoff date, there's your chance. So I think that is all from me. And my joke about Dave feeling like the bull that David rode, it's because I feel like I'm packing him around on my back all the time, every time he tells that story.
I wouldn't touch that line with a 10-foot pole, even if I was 11 feet away. So there you go. Anyway, Well, I want to thank our broadcast team of Olivia and Isabel and Efren. And I want to thank you viewers, especially those who gave a super chat. We really do appreciate that very greatly. And there will be 2 other Rebel News people here at 12 Eastern tomorrow. Not sure which ones it'll be, but just tune in. It's always full quality. And thank you to my
surprise. It's a surprise.
It's a surprise package. It's like a Cracker Jack. And I want to thank, of course, my co-host Sheila Gunn-Reid. Sheila and I will be back in this space at this time next Tuesday. And in the meantime, folks, as always, stay sane.
Media, remember?
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So what's happening? Is he not showing up?
Nope. No. He's a coward. He's taking the back door.
What would your message be if he were to show up?
He's a pharmaceutical tyrant, prostitute.